our guest this morning. With me in the studio this morning, to my immediate left, Dr. Ramsey Inusa is the head of political, discussions. Let me say it that way at the United Party. Doc.
Political discussions. you relegated Maro, but that's why.
I'm not.
Anyway, good morning to you.
Head of political research, right? I intentionally said that. Good morning and thanks for your time. It's a holiday, so allow.
Yeah.
Free movement.
No, free bottle.
Once again, good morning, Doc.
Good morning, David.
How is the holiday?
So far, so good. I'm looking to see how the day is going to end. Let me start by saying a very good morning to the good people of Ghana, and indeed to all the workers of Ghana, especially our farmers who work tirelessly to feed us, and indeed our civil servants in the various government polities out there. Let me take this special occasion to commend the works of the various departments and their workers of the Ayawaso West Municipal Assembly, who undoubtedly, I would say, is the best performing assembly in the Greater Accra Municipality, right? And let me also wish my people back in Wali Wali a very good morning and a Ramadan, Juma Mubarak.
Oh, okay.
Indeed, it is a Friday and a very important day in the lives of Muslims. And so let me also extend it to my fellow Muslim brothers and sisters in Ghana and to my brother Ataisa, who I have not seen in a while.
All right, so you've done the introduction for me, but let me just go back and do the introduction. Also with us this morning, it's the Member of Parliament for the good people of Sagnerigu. He also doubles as a member of the Finance Committee of Parliament, Honorable Ataisa. Good morning, Honorable.
Good morning.
And how are we?
We are doing well. Good morning to you and to my colleagues here, to your viewing public. Today is a great day for the workforce of this country, and I want to use your platform to extend my gratitude to all workers of this country who are various ways of shaping our nation, and to assure them that we are with them. And also Ramadan Kareem to all Muslims, especially to the good people. Especially to the good people of Sagnerigu. We are grateful for the opportunity as always.
I've seen some massive road infrastructure going on in the constituency. I saw some videos and I was like, whoa, what's happening?
Yes. Fortunately, I'm benefiting from the Big Push program. In fact, they are the Tamale Outer Ring Road, the third Outer Ring Road. The total kilometer is about 34 kilometers. But out of the 4 constituencies, my constituency alone has 17 kilometers out of that. It's the largest section of the ring road. So that's what you saw. But aside from that, under the road maintenance and improvement program, they have also been given about 12 kilometers of roads. So my constituency, if you do the needs assessment of the people, I remember the 2024 election was heavily campaigned on road infrastructure because the constituencies are 4, but I have the terrible road network among the 4 constituencies. So both NDC and PP were all campaigning on road improvement. So what we are doing currently is a big relief, and it's touching base with the realities of the people, and they are very, very, very happy, particularly the stretch in the Sagnerigu township, which is the capital of the municipality. When you enter the township, there is no road there. That is tarred or asphaltic. This will be the first time. Then the other zone of the constituency through Sorgu and all those, they are all getting facelift through many other parts of the constituency. And this is just the first year. My expectation is that by the time we do 4 years, we should be able to deal with the road network issue in our constituency.
We are keenly monitoring what happens in the constituency. All right, also with us this morning, it's Kwesi Kwatin. It's a legal private legal practitioner, and also the spokesperson to the former education minister. Good morning, sir. Counsel.
Good morning, my brother.
How are we doing? It's been a long time.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Let me take the opportunity to also greet my good brothers here, and of course our viewers across the length and breadth of the country. I mean, finally I'm here, so I'm sure you can proceed from there.
How is Honorable?
Oh, he's fine. Everyone is doing well. I think it's also important that today being Workers' Day, we also take the initiative to congratulate workers all over the world, especially in Ghana. And so we wish everybody well.
Okay, so let's start our discussion then. And on our African story, as you all know, we do our African story. We want to discuss the current situation in South Africa. Over the past few days, there's been massive protests in almost every, community in South Africa. They are demanding that all the foreigners, the African brothers they are living as foreigners, should leave South Africa. And this is at the back of jobs. They want jobs. They say the foreigners are taking away their jobs, they are taking away their wives. On an important day like
wives
this,
or girls? If you say wives, it's a bit controversial.
They are taking away their women. Okay, they are taking away their women, right? And on an important day like this, we just want to have a discussion on that, especially at the back that they are accusing the so-called foreigners taking over their jobs in South Africa. Doc, I want to start with you. I think you've been observing what is happening in South Africa. And for me, when you sit back and you listen to the key figures who are involved in the protests, who are leading the protests, when you listen to them these days, it looks like there's huge political undertones. They are having their local elections coming up somewhere in November. So people are seeing this as a way of, painting a certain particular party, especially the ANC, bad in the, upcoming elections. You are in the political space. What exactly do you see happening?
Yes, David, let me say good morning once again to your good self and your cherished viewers. Indeed, the current trend and repugnant news coming out of South Africa is indeed a threat to our common vision as Africans unite. And sad, the betrayal to the collective vision of our forefathers to propagate the unification of the African continent. I mean, you are spot on by intimating this morning that there are some political undertones to it. People have pointed fingers to the former president of South Africa, Jacob Zuma, of also being one on Facebook, attacking, innocent African immigrants who are legitimately doing business in South Africa and living there and abiding by their laws. I have said on so many occasions that there are also South Africans living in various African countries. And that the reason why we have not taken that stance, or we the political actors and commentators have not instigated some form of revenge to these menaces emanating from South Africa, is because we still believe in that vision of our forefathers, that Africa must unite. David, what is happening today is a reminder that we are not out of the woods yet. That some of our political leaders in Africa indeed are still agents of the West and are still puppets of the West. Otherwise, if you are holding your local, if you are anticipating your local elections, what has it got to do with legitimate immigrants living in your country and doing business and supporting your economy? Are we not supporting South African businesses grow across the length and breadth of Africa? MTN Ghana. MTN is a South African company. MultiChoice, DSTV, is a South African company. Have you heard any of us say that let's us collectively join hands together and kick them out of this country. And at most, what I could recollect is that the Minister for Communication had a banter with MultiChoice, and it was predicated on the prices or the pricing of their services. But not that because they are a South African company and they are doing business legitimately in Ghana, and that for that matter, because they are not Ghanaian, they should move out of this country. It doesn't make sense. It is sad. And I say that those miscreants propagating that repugnant acts in South Africa do not know their history. David, at a particular point in time, we here in Ghana created a safe haven for the leaders of the armed wing of the ANC. Right? Supported them with funds for the struggle against the apartheid regime. We gave them our own passports to fly to various countries across the world to lobby leaders so that they can be supported in their struggle. A liberated South Africa against the apartheid regime was as a result of the support and the toil of various African countries. Is this the price we have to receive, or is this the price they'll pay us today for helping them, David? Yeah. It doesn't make sense, and it's a betrayal on the history of Africa. And so I am calling on the leaders of South Africa today, and I'm calling on the leaders of the various African countries to look at those that are instigating these protests and identify them individually and sanction them. If that fails, we should go escalate it and target their companies. If that fails, then I think that we would begin the agenda for South Africa must go, as it happened between we and what? The Nigerians some time ago.
Ghana must go, right?
Yes, Ghana must go. Then indeed, we need to ensure that South Africans also leave our country. Because it is a betrayal on the collective interest and agenda for the unification of Africa. We cannot allow such repugnant ideologies to exist amongst us as Africans. It cannot be so. Today, those that have been enjoying from this menace are laughing at us, and it's the West. They say that African immigrants are taking away their jobs. David, when you sat down there, and I mean the South Africans, and allowed those foreign indigenous people who claim they are South Africans as well, the Africans, some from India, to accumulate or control 70% of your country's wealth and control your farmlands and all that, you blame it on us?
Right.
They're even lucky that they have 30%. If not for the struggle and the support of other African countries, they would have got nothing. And so they should go back and learn their history, and that we are not their enemies. And they should take cue from the African word, Ubuntu. I am because you are. And it's an ideology that emanates from South Africa. So like I said, these are a bunch of uneducated miscreants who do not know their history and are just being used as political tools to satisfy a certain political agenda and narrative. But let them know that we are watching closely. That if they touch any Ghanaian, they touch all of us. And that we are watching closely. And that they should remember that their brothers and sisters also live amongst us. We have 5,000 South Africans living in Ghana today. They have companies that are doing business in Ghana. We have never had issues with them before.
Right.
But if they push us to the wall, we will strike.
Right. Honorable, what is so worrying for me when I see some of the videos? It's, I saw one day the leaders of the protests, they held a meeting with foreign investors, the Pakistanis, the Indians, and all those foreigners who are employing the so-called black persons in South Africa, and warned them not to offer any employment opportunities to any foreigner. And I don't know whether you saw that meeting. You know, it's all over social media. And at the back of that, during these protests, they are stealing, they are mobbing, they are destroying properties and businesses that have been set up by the so-called foreigners that they are going after. I don't know how this disturbs you, especially today being Labor Day.
Well, my brother has said it all. I think this is a regrettable situation. In fact, last year they launched the PAPS program to make sure that African can trade among ourselves under the After Secretariat initiative. So the concept has always been to remove the artificial barriers and create trade linkages. In fact, the economic pressures and externalities that we suffer as Africa is because we are not together. If you look at the combined GDP of Africa, if we are able to trade among ourselves, it simply suggests that Africa can do without the IMF and the rest of the institutions. What is our enemy? The biggest enemy of Africa today is the concept of disunity. A natural creation by God that gives us a distinct color to suggest that we are one. In fact, if you look at the Quran very well, the Quran says that I have created you into nations and tribes so you may know each other. That is the purpose of creation. So God has distinguished and beautifully created Africans, and we must identify ourselves as Africans. People have had to lay their lives in leadership positions to preserve the sanctity and the unification of the concept of Africa. The more there is that disparity among African countries, the more inequality widens, the more political tensions widens, and the more people are subjected to abject poverty. That is the result of that. So the move is very regressive, and this is not the first time. I have been seeing xenophobic attacks virtually every 2 years, and oftentimes it has always been on Nigerians, if you follow. But this time around, a citizen of this country was also attacked, and legitimately though. Unemployment rate in South Africa happens to be one of the highest in the region, about 30-something% or 31%. But that cannot be attributed to migrants. Why? There are available data that I'll share with you that suggests that that notion that they have is based on misguided research. You have a systemic system failure where the resources of the country is controlled by the white population of your country. You have created that economic inequality among your citizens, and you tend to blame other African countries. And David, let me tell you something. Most migrants that go to South Africa, they end up by creating their own jobs. They do not depend mostly on the job available to them that is being created by South Africans. So if you know the gentleman that was that we all saw, he said he's a nail technician. Was that what he said?
Yeah.
Nail technician. So it means that he has brought a set of skills to impact lives. But they are saying that they also have technicians. What stops you from expanding or also setting up your own business? So if the concept of AFTA is to integrate more countries in Africa together to increase trade intensity and to reduce pressures from the external market, and then on the other hand, individual countries are stifling the progress, how come that we haven't been able to even implement the common currency? How come? It is because of actions like this. But their economy too is not really doing well. But like I said, you cannot link it to that of migrants. The same way when Ghana's economy is not doing well, we can't link it to MTN and the rest. Can we? No. We can't. And frankly speaking, I want to urge all Ghanaians to be happy that we are citizens of Ghana. Ghana is indeed a peace haven. When you look at what is going on in Mali today,
in Burkina Faso and the Sahel countries and many other African countries, you realize that it is Ghana that has really understood the concept of unification. So I get worried when I see, in fact, one of the advanced economies in Africa will be South Africa, truly. One of them. To see them leading a charge of violence and extremism, it tells us that we are indeed not ready for unification. And let me also commend the leadership of both Ghana and the South Africans. They had, in the wake up of the recent attacks that we saw, certain concrete steps were undertaken, and I'm seeing some level of results in them. But moving forward, it has more to do with politics than governance. So if you see Cyril speak, the president, you realize that he was more forthcoming and brutal to the truth. In fact, he recounted the history of how they were able to defeat apartheid. But like he said, opposition elements who want to play on the emotional keyboards of the unemployed youth of South Africa will tell them that they are not getting the job because of this. So they take advantage of the political climate. I salute Malema. Malema will forever support an African, even in Chad, than a white supremacy in South Africa. Why are they not attacking the European country members that are stationed in South Africa? And it's always their black colleague. So, telling us to go and fix our countries. Can you imagine? What has been the contribution of that individual in fixing South Africa? His contribution is negative because he's looking for jobs. And who says when you are trying to invest in other countries or do business in other countries, your country is not good? Go and see UAE, Dubai. How many Americans and UK citizens are in Dubai? In fact, during the war between Israel and Iran, the number of evacuations that was done on citizens of Canada, Norway, UK, USA, and many other European countries from UAE. You'll be shocked. In fact, Dubai is able to expand exponentially because of the concept of hospitality, giving passenger better experience with how comfort means. So other people are opening up. Look at the way the regime in assessing visas going to Dubai. One of the easiest in the world. Why? They are trying to encourage people to come and spend within their economies. So that is where countries are now moving towards. In fact, US is lagging behind in terms of development these days, and their growth pace is slower because of their tightening border controls. Countries are moving towards giving open borders to many. Yes, of course, you may need to screen to see the criminal status of migrants. But there is no evidence that can be traced to any illegality that has been caused by any of them. So how are you doing that? And let me give you this last one on. I just chanced through a report and I want to share with you. So they said these are the realities of the unemployment, like I said, about 31% as of 2025. Now, including those who are underemployed, it means that their countries and companies have created situations where they are paying lower than their qualifications. It's about 42% when you add. Then the youth component of it is about 43.8%. So this is one of the highest rates globally, frankly speaking. Now, the frustrations that they are going through, if it is grounded in this hardship, must be placed at the doorstep of the leadership of the country and not the citizens of others. Now, migrants issue. Estimated to be 2.4 million people and the share on the population over there is just 3.9%. And this is not related to only Ghana. It's everywhere in the world, those who stay in South Africa to do business. So my point is that how many South Africans are in Ghana alone? So when you do those things, you are being regressive. We've come from a very far place. We cannot continue doing things that our forebears fought against. In fact, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah even took Ghana's resources to countries to gain independence. And he said that independence of Ghana will be meaningless unless it is linked up with the total liberation of Africa. That was the vision of Ghana. And we have led this in many countries, trying to call them brothers. So when we see incidences like this, it's a drawback to our African conscience.
Interesting.
South Africa and xenophobic attacks. I mean, I think it was February, first week, second week of February. I was in South Africa, and at least I had the opportunity to interact with people, and I mean, at the back of my mind, I wanted to, and I mean, those times during February, we didn't have such attacks there. I mean, it was relatively stable and peaceful. But of course, we've had that history before. And so even when I sit in an Uber or try to engage any people, I try to understand why they choose this very aggressive path. And let me put this on record. You see, for me, if you ask me, I feel South Africa has been probably overhyped, especially to our African brothers and maybe in Ghana here. If you look at the poverty gap, right, I'm not sure if you probably, I don't have the data well, but I'm not sure if you take, let's say, 5 countries, there will be any country that is unmatched in terms of poverty gap between those doing well and those that are not doing well, the rich and the poor. Let me also put on record that I've lived in Ghana for at least over 30 years. I've never gotten my wallet missing before. But in South Africa, my wallet got picked. You see, the world must know that South Africa is not as how we preach and make it to be. South Africa is not a stable country. If you ask me, for lack of better words, I would say South Africa is a crime scene. Because I mean, some of these videos that comes out, if you look at the videos, the first question you ask yourself is that where is the military? Where is the police? You don't see a single military person, even when 5 people have accosted a supposed immigrant and they are maltreating him. But bottom line is that we need to understand a certain reality. If you go to South Africa as at now, there is about 7 to 8% of the white community that controls virtually 70 to 80% of all businesses and wealth in South Africa. They are not bothered about that, but they are bothered about the people who probably they believe are controlling the informal sector. They don't have problem with their white colleagues competing with them, whether you are from Europe, whether you are from anywhere, and of course the white indigenous. They are just about 7 to 8% of the population in South Africa. Yes, so they control the land, they control the manufacturing, they control everything. South Africans don't have any problem with that. But they unfortunately and interestingly, they have problem with people within the black skin category. But you see, that we cannot also be dismissive of the underlying problem. Obviously, the underlying problem is unemployment. No two ways about that. Yes, there is unemployment, high rate of unemployment, increasing the poverty gap. In Cape Town, I live at a place, Habitat Hotel. Just you take an Uber, that place is extremely developed, probably compared to most European countries that I've been. I've been in Australia, I've been in Canada, I've been in UK. When you look at Cape Town, where mostly the white community is and the most developed place, you realize that you compare to most of these countries that I've mentioned, you may probably not even see much difference. But in the same Cape Town, you move to the other stretch, and I bet you, without any disrespect to any community here, Nima is 1,000 times percent better. just in the same place. So the principle is that the poverty line is so glaring between those who are doing well and those who are not doing well. And of course, I mean, it's owing to unemployment. And interestingly, the people who owns jobs there, the white communities and the black people, the immigrants that owns jobs there, they do not even want to employ the South Africans. They don't trust them. They come, and of course there are speculations and allegations that they are stealing them, they are aggressive, they are not treating their customers well. And of course you should know the history of South Africa. I mean, they've gone through apartheid, gone through turmoil. They just came to democratic rule quite recently. So that aggressive nature has also now become almost cultural and has now creeped into the whole society. And so that is how come they also respond to matters like this. So they don't even want to employ the ordinary South African. You made a comment which may appear funny, that they said the immigrants are taking their. It is true. If you call 100 South African women, and you have also the indigenous, the ordinary South African men calling them, chances are that they move to the foreigner. Because the women themselves, we don't trust I mean, they don't respect their women, they are so aggressive towards their women, and it appears state institutions do not work. When it comes to security, police, oh, come on. So when you get to South Africa, you must understand that you are on your own. But now back to the basis and the point that I was raising. Yes, I mean, we understand that the problem is unemployment. When there is unemployment, it also creates social pressure, anger, and the unfortunate part is that, like Honorable said, then politicians try to exploit those sentiments. Because visibly, unarguably, when you move to South Africa, it appears as though it is the immigrants that owns the small businesses, like the SMEs. So they are into trading, they are selling, they are controlling the transport industry, those basic industries. So it's visible that indeed you see the immigrants. It's just like when you go to Abosokai, you will see our Nigerian brothers also selling some of these spare parts. When you go to the Kumasi one is also Mazin, you see our Nigerian brothers also selling those spare parts. When you go to South Africa, the basic businesses, you also see some of these immigrants also into. So visibly they are there. But I think I'm not so sure of the loss of South Africa. But in Ghana here, if you want to make a comparative analysis, you also have to understand that the GIPC Act actually bars against foreigners engaging in some businesses, especially these small businesses that are reserved only for Ghanaians. So I want to believe and probably speculate that in South Africa too, you may also have the same. Because if there is no legal foundation upon which they premise some of this aggression and unfortunate and unwarranted attacks, I tend to get shocked why sometimes the state does not intervene. It is a more reason why politicians can hide under the umbrella of the law and exploit those sentiments. So it's true, yeah, that you go there within the small scale industries or the small scale businesses, it is foreigners or migrants that are doing. But what South Africans forget is that, interestingly, it is the same migrants that come and out of these small businesses create jobs for them. Because the ordinary South African youth will not get up to go and work and create, even open a shop. So most of these shops will be opened by the black community or the migrants, but at the end of the day, they will still employ the same South Africans. So the balance is what they need to be told. That yes, it's true. On the flip side, on the face value, you may argue that people are taking your businesses. But in reality, they are rather creative businesses. Because no South Africa will hand over a business to you. You have to come and create that business before you even able to employ 2 or 3 or 4 South Africans, and to even think of adding 1 Zambian or probably a Ghanaian to it. So they have to understand that reality. But right now, we are at the crossroad. This is what we are confronted with. South Africans believe that they have to use aggression, inhumane acts, indigenous acts to be able to address their concerns. Essentially, we must then look at the underlying cause. What is the underlying cause? The underlying cause is unemployment, and of course, it's coming from bad policies, politicians, and of course, leadership not able to fix the unemployment problem. And so, if you ask me, I mean, we can have all these conversations about this, about that, and probably discuss all the causes. But ultimately, if you do not address the issue of unemployment in South Africa, I mean, this discussion, it will be a recycling discussion like the way we are having discussion of flood in Ghana every year. Every year we'll sit here, when the rain comes, we'll have the same discussions. Because, you see, their orientation has been so corrupted as a people that is getting to a stage that we probably have to re-educate them again on the whole principles of African unity, the substantial values that we hold as a people, as a black community, before they will be able to appreciate it. But their nature, and I told you where they are coming from, the level of aggression, because I mean these are people who are not afraid to even see blood. They just had independence just around 1994, so they've been fighting up till now, and now they believe that they have legal basis or legitimate basis to say that this person is taking my land, that person is taking over my businesses. So the fundamental problem is fixing the unemployment issue. But like Honorable said, interestingly, politicians are now using it as an exploitation chamber. If this political party is in power, quickly the other political party will go and hide under the locals and then start preaching about these sentiments. That you see, the reason why you are not getting jobs is that this political party has failed to sack the immigrants. Until you sack them, so the people get agitated. And these are normal undercurrent and undertones, issues that visibly are rare. Yes, it's true. You go to the market, you probably will see a Ghanaian selling pepper. Yes, I mean, you go to the shop that you want to cook, you may see a Zambian selling the cook to you. So they are valid concerns that are there, except that politicians are exploiting that. So maybe we probably have to look at maybe a very aggressive response to them. I don't necessarily believe that we have to go and attack their companies. We are a civil society. I'm not so sure we are uncivilized as how some of them are portraying to be. I also do not think two wrongs makes a right. But maybe the rest of the African community, ECOWAS, and of course AU may come together and impose sanctions on them. That if you do not do this, in terms of even the basic bilateral trades, we are unable to even connect. There should be strong and stricter sanctions. And maybe subsequently, the AU probably may even have to lobby other organizations worldwide, whether at the UN level, I mean at any level, and put strong economic sanctions on them. When those strong economic sanctions are on them, their leadership will then act. Because I do not see why on the street you will get 100 or 200 South Africans, they match up. Where is intelligence gathering even this in the first place? It's not as though they just got up and nobody knew. Because if they were going to plot a coup against a certain government, that one they will obviously be able to know. So why is it that when they are going to attack migrants and people from the rest of the African community, they pretend they don't know? Interestingly, you don't see police. And if you see police, the posture is that even the state condones it. You see about 5 policemen going to fight about 200 men who are mostly armed. And I tell you, when it comes to gun regulations and weapon regulations, South Africa is among the poorest countries that regulates those things. In terms of regulations, very poor in compliance. So what probably we see on set on TV may not necessarily reflect what they are even having. Most of them are armed, most of them very aggressive. And interestingly, when people are going to face them, you see about 3 or 4 or 5 policemen, which will tell you that even the state is unwilling to even fight it. So for me, I feel that there should be a collective sanction against them, against this barbaric act, especially when persuasion has failed. We've lobbied them, we've spoken to them, we've used a very civilized model to engage them. Diplomacy has failed. I think the rest of the world, especially the African community, should come together and say, hey, look, when the next time we do that, we are going to put very strong economic measures against you. And even if you are unable to, probably we may have to look at it from a very broader perspective. I mean, recently Trump said he was going to fight for the lands of whites and give them back their land. So somebody like the US can be a great ally, especially in this fight. No, I mean, no, Trump has an interest. I mean, I'm not a Trump person. The description I will give him, I cannot describe him on TV. But I mean, he's proven to be an interest, a person of interest. Anytime his interest is there, you can exploit him. Just like the guy with the big yes, Benjamin Netanyahu has been able to they see him exploit him to go to Iran. Maybe we can also be able to looking at exploiting Trump and co-US, especially now he has an interest on lands, securing lands for the horizon, put sanctions against these guys.
I'm even told, I get indications that they are even not employable. They don't even have the skills.
Yeah, most of them. Like if you go to Australia, if you go to Australia, the Aborigines, if you see the Aborigines who traditionally is perceived to own the land, you will see if you gather 100 Aborigines here, chances are that 99 of them has drunk to the stage that they are beyond repairs, they are beyond redemption.
As in drunk.
Yeah. You see them, they are alcoholism. So they are not employable and they cannot be employed. In such circumstances, what do? Those people who are taking guns and cutlasses and machetes and other things, who employ them?
But I beg to differ with Kwesi's paradigm of using the indigenous Australians, because with the indigenous Australians, it was systemic.
Yeah.
It was systemic.
Yeah.
But they didn't get any help from anywhere.
It was a design against them.
Yes.
Actually, it was a state policy.
But with the Zulus of South Africa, they had support from all across Africa, with our resources and our political machinery. But yet still, they end up in this manner. So it's a pity, David.
Right. Okay. We'll leave it at that. We'll see what will be happening in South Africa, going forward. Let's turn our attention, come back home and deal with issues of finance. The majority has been speaking and they've been talking into the financial architecture of the Bank of Ghana. In fact, at the press conference that was briefed by Honorable Ataisa here with me this morning, they gave various indications, right, that the economy is back on track. And what's quite disturbing for others, though, it's the revelations or observation that the Bank of Ghana has incurred some losses. In fact, BOG recorded a net loss of 15.6 billion cedis in 2025. And the big question that people are posing is whether this will have any effect on the operational capability of the Bank of Ghana. Honorable, you were there. Give us an indication. What exactly did you mean? The losses. If you have a company that is running at a loss,
yes,
you think it will affect the operational capability of that institution?
All right. So yesterday, the agenda was simple: to bring to the attention of Ghanaians the stark reality of the operations of Bank of Ghana for the year 2025 that has brought some level of stability and economic relief to our people. Now, if you look at the Bank of Ghana's Act 612, and then that of the Public Financial Management Act at 9221, the mandate is enshrined in law. That is the Bank of Ghana's objectives and mandate is enshrined in law. One of it, or the first one of it, is price stability. Is that not it? Then the foreign exchange management, then the overall economic activities of this country. So what we seek to do yesterday was to judge the performance of the BOG based on the economic objectives and the mandate stated in law. Now, we were also minded to go deeper than that of 2025, and we posted that in 2024, the total negative equity of Bank of Ghana, which stood at 61.3 billion Ghana cedis, resulted in economic matrices that was dire to the people. For you to have a negative equity of 61 billion, yet your inflation was still high at 23.8%.
I wanted to help us, especially for my friends in Sagnerugu. If you can count down on the language, the financial language, so that everybody watching will
So let me take it systematically here. So what we are saying is that, first of all, the Bank of Ghana in the year 2025, they made a loss of 15.6 billion, as compared to 2024 of 9.4 billion Ghana cedis. But the difference between that is that in 2025, there was an item that is not in the 2024, which is the domestic gold purchase program. And that alone resulted in 9 billion. So
Losses.
loss. So the net impact of the operations, indeed, of Bank of Ghana is less than the 15 billion. It's about 6 point something billion. But we are not just calculating profit based on, because it is sitting in the books of Bank of Ghana.
Why are you isolating?
So that's why I don't want to isolate it. I'm just saying that the 15.6 billion has in it the losses emanating from the domestic gold purchase program of 9 billion. Now, I'm saying that for you to get 15.6 billion Ghana cedis loss, it must translate in achieving the objectives as set out in law. Now, what the Bank of Ghana did is that when we took office in 2025, they realized that there was so much money in the system, excess liquidity, and it was controlled by the banks. So what the government did in terms of tightening monetary policy and to mopping up the excess liquidity, this was not money in people's pockets. This was money within the banks. So what the Bank of Ghana did was to issue domestic bonds, short-term bonds, at higher rates to what? Compel those banks to invest those monies into the Bank of Ghana's bonds so that they bring that money out. The interest cost that they had to pay to bring that money represented 16 billion Ghana cedis. But that 16 billion Ghana cedis translated in an inflation of 3.2% today. So yes, it is supposed to be called operational cost, but in this case we call it loss, because they are not supposed to invest to be doing profit and loss. So, but in technical terms, because of the accounting standards, the way we record our transactions, they capture it as operation cost of 16.7 billion Ghana cedis, and that cost was to fight the inflation that was at 23.8%. Now, to the ordinary Ghanaian, if a good was sold at 100 Ghana cedis in 2024 and an inflation of 23.8%, when it's supposed to increase, what it means is that 23.8 times 100 Ghana cedis will give you 2.8, right? And then you will, now it's 3.2%. The impact of the increase will be minimal because of lower inflation rate. So I say yes, we have spent 16 billion Ghana cedis mopping up excess liquidity, but it has resulted in what? Reducing the rate at which price of goods and services increases for the ordinary Ghanaian.
Excess liquidity, does it have any financial consequences? Because people see it as, you know, it having an effect on the current situation.
No, so that is the consequence. That is the consequence I have just read to you. That it has led to what? A loss at the Bank of Ghana.
I'm talking about the purchasing power.
No,
of the
it doesn't.
Ghanaian.
It doesn't. It doesn't. You see, that's the misconception
that
people
there's
have.
No money in the system because of the excess liquidity.
Have you done a service that you are not paid? You see, in any regime, they don't go out doling out money to individuals. What we are, when they say excess liquidity, simple means that there are so much money with the banks, for example, that gives them some leverage to decide the economic fortunes of the whole country. And if you know the money supply chain, sometimes if money supply is more than the demand, it leads to lower interest rate, isn't it? And then inflation. So what Bank of Ghana normally do is that when they want to achieve the equilibrium and they realize that there's so much money supply into the economy, they issue those short-term bonds to mop up that excess to achieve that level of equilibrium. And it will come at a cost. Then the second issue, and look, let me be honest with you. In 2024, the NPP spent, with the same monetary policy tightening to lower inflation, they spent 8.6 billion Ghana cedis, and they resulted to 3.8% inflation. The NDC government has spent 16 billion Ghana cedis, that's double of what they spent in 2024, and it brought us to inflation of 3.2%. It wasn't because NPP did not spend through their domestic OMO operations. they spent. Just that they spent 8.6 billion Ghana cedis, but it still gave them inflation rates of 3.2%, 23.8%. But we have spent 16.7 billion, and it has given us inflation rate of about 3.2%. Even with that, let me give you this data also. The monetary policy, which is very important, and my brother here can attest, that forms the basis of the Ghana's reference rate. It also forms basis for the interbank rate and lending rates. Was 30% in 2023 and lowered to 27%. So despite all the 9.4 billion losses that they made in 2024, the losses that we are making now has resulted in reducing the monetary policy rate currently to about 11% as at now. Even T-bills is now about 10.06. If you look at the Ghana reference rate today, it's 10.06. All this came at a cost. Do we prefer recording costs in the pocket of Ghanaians or recording that cost on the books of Bank of Ghana? Because of the lower monetary policy rate, it has led to lower banking rate, lending rates. And they are saying that if you look at private credit expansion, it has expanded from 2024, which was positive 2%. Now we are talking about 15.3% in terms of private sector capital. And that's why I was saying that when they say mopping up of capital, it doesn't mean there is no money. Even access to private funds in terms of expansion for businesses has grown by 15.3%. Now, T-bill rates, like we talked about, has fallen. Lowest in many years now. 15 consecutive months, it has been on the decline. Yet, the recent one that was issued for them to do the debt swaps had oversubscription, even at a lower rate. Because normally when we were doing economics in first degree, we knew that government bills are normally risk-free. It was only under DDEP that government debt became haircut, happened to government debt and became risky assets. So public confidence is rebounding. That is why, despite the lower rate of T-bills, people are still oversubscribing. Now, we talked about spending another money in terms of cedi stabilization. And David, let me give you an example. Imagine you have $1,000 in 2024, $1,000, and the cedi value of your $1,000 would have been what? 17,000 Ghana cedis. Am I right? If your cedi to the dollar was 1 to 17, example, and today you still have that $1,000, but the cedi value of it, let's say to 11 now, will be 11,000. Even though the dollar value of your worth is still $1,000, but in 2024 the cedi depreciated against major trading currencies, in fact the dollar, by 19%. Now the cedi has appreciated cumulatively in 2025 by 41%. That came with a cost.
Honorable, this is just something that is boggling me. If you have a mandate, right, to execute a function,
yes,
and you end up, definitely you have to execute the mandate,
yes,
and you spend more in ordinary terms.
Yes.
That's how the ordinary person will say it.
Yes.
You are spending more, over a period to achieve that mandate. Is that not something you talk about?
No. If you see, you cannot quantify the benefit as enshrined in the law, the objective, price stability, overall economic stability, foreign exchange reserves. These are things that cannot really be quantified in monetary terms. So you judge its performance based on the objectives of the company.
Okay.
That it is not a commercial company. It is not a profit maximizing company. So it's just like saying the Ministry of Transport made a loss, or the Ministry of Finance made a loss. The Bank of Ghana is a regulator. That's what we need to know. It's a regulator. The law doesn't, they are not there to make profit. They are there to achieve certain things. They control the monetary policy of the country. And the monetary policy
so we can't judge them by the
losses. No, you can't judge them by the profit and loss.
Okay.
Only. The last time we talked about MPP moving the negative equity position from a positive equity in 2021 of 5.2 billion to negative equity of 61.3 billion. The last time we talked about it was because judging the amount of investment that has happened as compared to what the outcomes are based on the objectives of the Bank of Ghana was massive incompetence. That's what we were trying to say. Because you cannot tell me that you spend close to 61.3 billion Ghana cedis losses, then you still have an inflation as high as 23.8%, a lending rate as high as over 35%. Then where have you achieved the stated objective as enshrined in the Bank of Ghana's Act? That was the metrics that we were using. And then they said it was the domestic debt exchange program that wiped out in 2022 of 48 billion Ghana cedis. In fact, that overhang is still happening to Bank of Ghana today. Because through the Bank of Ghana's investment in government assets, they were supposed to be receiving annually 13 billion Ghana cedis annually. As a result of the domestic debt exchange program, every year the Bank of Ghana loses a tune of 13 billion Ghana cedis up to 2029. That is what we are talking about. Now, my brothers are here. It is important for me to also bring your attention to this particular issue. Now, look at the gold purchase program. I said that it is an outlier that was not in the previous 2024 report, but it is now here. If you look at the operations of the PMMC, those days it was heavily budgeted for and expended through the Ministry of Finance. We came to pass a new bill called the Gold Board Act that gave them exclusive mandate to buy and sell gold on behalf of Ghana. Then that money is meant for reserve buildup. In 2025, the Ministry of Finance allocated 279 million US dollars for the bank of for Gold Board to purchase gold program. Now, what we realized was that in 2024, the total metric tons of gold that was exported was 56.47 billion. And it translated to 4 billion United States dollars. We exported 56.47 billion and it translated to $4 billion. Do you know how much we spent that year to process this thing? We spent 5.6 billion Ghana cedis. So even without Gold Board, the NPP through PMMC incurred a loss for 2024 of 5.6 billion. But in that year, it was sitting in the books of PMMC and not the Bank of Ghana. This year, now we exported 110.99 metric tons, from 56 to 110.99 metric tons, and this generated 11 billion United States dollars. But Bank of Ghana had to absorb a cost of 9 billion Ghana cedis. So how, if Bank of Ghana was the sole recipiency of the revenue and the expenditure, you would have had to add 11 billion United States dollars to the revenue side of Bank of Ghana. Then the expenditure of only 9 billion Ghana cedis. That would have been a big profit. But this 11 billion United States dollars is sitting in the books of Gold Board rather, as revenue that they have mopped up from the system. But this 9 billion that the Bank of Ghana suffered from is as a result of the exchange differentials. What happens is that, you know, gold is traded with the dollar. Now, Bank of Ghana, Gold Board goes for money from Bank of Ghana at a BOG rate. Let's say the BOG rate today is 10.32. When Gold Board goes into the field, most of the time, because of competition, and then to avoid smuggling, we offer them premium pricing so that they see the price as an incentive to sell to us. Because this is the first time we are forcing people not to sell themselves, but through us. If you do it at discount, so the first thing we did was to remove the 5% withholding tax on small scale miners. The idea was that that becomes a motivation for them to sell to you. Now they know that the forex market rate is, let's say, 11, but your BOG rate is 10.32. If you come to them to give it to you at the 10.32, will they sell to you? when they know the international market, they can sell it and get a better rate. So the BOG rate is not what the gold board pitches. They use the forex market rates. But in recording, Ghana's functional and presentation currency, according to IFRS standards, is Ghana cedi. You are supposed to present all your financial statements in Ghana cedi. So the translation of those dollar-denominated transactions of gold into Ghana cedis, Bank of Ghana cannot translate it using the forex market rate, because Bank of Ghana doesn't know there should be a forex market rate. What they know is that they know the exchange rate today is this, but you and I know that's not what happens. So the difference between the forex market rate and that of the BOG rate is an exchange differential. That exchange differential is a loss to the Bank of Ghana, and that accounted for 9 billion. Right. So you get the point. Yeah. So I'm saying that these are some of the things that are mostly accounting and not economic. And that's why the IMF, if you remember, the IMF said Bank of Ghana made a loss of about, was it $412 million or $214 million that they mentioned some time back. It was because of the accounting difference. And we sought to portray to Ghanaians that these type of costs are outliers, and it will not happen in the Bank of Ghana's record moving forward. And let me demonstrate why.
Because I was coming to that.
Yes.
That
we passed
that this is not going to happen again.
Yes. This is what we passed. Let me just show you.
That did not impugn on all the explanations that we
So in February this year, Parliament of Ghana passed what we call the Ghana Accelerated National Cumulative Policy, GANRAP. And the framework is we have identified all off-takers. Now, this year, the whole of 2026, from January till now, from February till now, all gold board purchases are done directly pre-financed by the off-takers. So the Bank of Ghana is not releasing money to gold board. What the Bank of Ghana is doing, the people pre-finance the money, the purchase, then we go and buy. Then we get our margins and our profit, and it is appropriately budgeted for by the Ministry of Finance.
As a mistake being corrected?
Yeah, of course, right. Because it was a new system. Gold board was a new innovation. We were saying that we must retain the full benefit of our natural resources. Right. Then we realized that it was becoming a huge fiscal coincide expenditure of the Bank of Ghana, because that is not their direct operations. So why should they bear the consequence of the gold operation? But we had to do it. And it raked in, because of that singular decision, it raked in 11 billion United States dollars to our coffers. And you spend 9 billion Ghana cedis and you are complaining. If you convert 9 billion Ghana cedis to that of dollars, how much would that be? How much would that be? Right. Less than $1 billion. And we rake in 11 billion. So government is saying that moving forward, we'll be able to establish a relationship with off-takers and the rest. Why don't we let them pre-finance? And I think MPP did that at Cocoa Board. But the mistake they did with the rollover contracts was, if you remember, they went to sign on to an agreed price of 2,661 United States dollars. So even whatever the outcome of the international market is, they still have to sell. That's not what we are doing. What we are doing is that gold purchase program is if it's a float concept, you can always check it. The price of gold, you can always check it. So what we normally do is that if we are selling out our next window on this date, then the price is hedged on that rate. Then you make payment for that. When it is delivered to you, you pay the money on that at the day that you receive the gold. So the money doesn't come to us like this. What happens is that gold board gets the gold, arrange with the person, the off-taker. Then the off-taker pays the money on the day prevailing gold price. Then it is given to Bank of Ghana to build the reserve. So in the books of Bank of Ghana, moving forward, this particular cost will not be there.
Well, I'm not a finance person. So when he started his presentation, I recall you said you should break it down to the lay person. Maybe the lay person in Asante has become Yabra. I started with health, science, health, administration, law, and maybe a lot of my working experience has been communicating for politicians and politically exposed persons. Maybe I also have to look at very into finance, so that I can be quoting most of the terms. Yeah, Dog is also a finance person.
Pure.
Oh, okay. So I'm the only
governance.
I'm the only.
To you normally.
I'm the only non-finance person here, but for me, of course, I mean, bottom line is still, I mean, it has a political connotation, so maybe I'll take it from there. My view is that principles, first of all, should not be seasonal. I recall 2023 when BOG also incurred some debts during our administration. And I recall they even did the demonstration. They even asked that the BOG's boss, then Governor Addison, should even be removed. That was around less than 10 billion. And now we are doing about 15 billion. And now the status quo has changed with a lot of explanations. Just like when we recall, they used to always remind us when Dr. Bawumia said, when the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate to expose you. They said the thing has exposed you. Why are you saying now changing your rhythm? It's almost a similar thing. That for me, I recall. Let me quote Professor Gache. Those times, one of his public pronouncements, he said, "Loss is a loss. It doesn't matter how you explain it. Loss is a loss." That is for me the bottom line. Whether it's a gold board, whether it's this, whether it's this. Of course, reasons has always existed for everything. But people have always argued as to whether they are always in reasonable form is also another point. So far as any Ghanaian or any person that takes the books, at the end of the day, what the person will look at is your profit and your loss. So a loss is a loss for me. But it ties up to my earlier remarks that principles are not seasonal. What you people felt was proper or was unright then should not be right today. I recall with this the approach. I'm sure he may be able to give us the right. Is it financial sterilization?
Yes.
Financial sterilization, of course, to keep inflation down and all that. You see, I'm not sure it is a bad thing because we also attempted that. But he's now trying to compare the inflationary figures. But you see, inflationary figures should also be compared within a context and timing. Where did you also pick it from before we put it at 23? And where did you also pick it from before you also put it at the 3? And what were the economic situations prevalent at that time? But, I mean, the economics should tell you, you have the facts, but the interpretation of the facts will mostly be subjective. But objectively, we have to admit that the inflationary figures that have been compared, regardless of the rate of the inflation, obviously was picked from somewhere during those particular moments. I'm sure we picked from somewhere before it came to 23. So when you also pick, and governance has always been a continuous process. So when you also pick from 23, we don't expect that when you pay from 23, you also all of a sudden then do around the same, maybe bring it to 21. Obviously, you also have to come down. So the rate is what probably will give us a holistic and fair appreciation of performance. And I think on the issue about the sterilization thing, you guys condemned us that we are using money to buy money, literally. I mean, the finance people will tell you to buy money from the economy so that we'll be able to put inflation down. I recall even the current president, then candidate Mahama, even said this is a criminal mismanagement of the economy by Bank of Ghana. I mean, that was the description then. If it was criminal mismanagement of the economy then, what has changed?
What was?
No, that was what the former current president then, candidate Mahama, said that in terms of the BOG loss, he said it was a criminal mismanagement of the economy. When you people had called for the head of Governor Addison, that was the description President Mahama used. That was a criminal mismanagement of the economy. You see, leadership is about decision making. Honestly, if you ask me, I do not think, even as of now, it's a criminal mismanagement of the economy. It's about a policy directive and policy direction. So as is what then, that at that time it was not a criminal mismanagement of the economy. But you know, politicians will always look into our faces and tell you that NDC came in there, did nothing, and everything that they did was wrong. And NDC will also look into your face and tell you that whatever MPP did was wrong. But I mean, now, like Dr. Bawumia said, when the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you. This time it's not the exchange rate, but when the decisions were weak, obviously using your same standard, the standard that you set for us today, the signs are very clear and viable. I am not an economic person, but to the ordinary person, what they will say is that the signs are very clear. Is very evident that you are now in a loss. They speak about Gold Board. They say, remember, a day before, Gold Board released some documents and some information that they've had a profit of 900 million Ghana cedis, which is almost like triple what we did during under us in PMMC. Forgetting that now, Honorable is now reminding us that even there is about 9 billion of debt that can be even attributed to Gold Board. Let's do the deductions and do the net. You still realize that then Gold Board necessarily may not be a very viable institution within that term. Because you said there is a 9 billion of that debt that you paid for Gold Board. Maybe you can explain to.
We raked in $11 billion from the gold sales, but the 9 billion is the cost of the exchange losses that happened. But that one is sitting on the books of the Bank of Ghana. But it's exchange loss, not operational expense.
Whichever way say
no. You see, when you make it look so simplistic. For example, if you are exchanging at the difference between 12 and 10 cedis, that is not a cash loss. This is just an accounting effect.
Okay.
Somebody is recording it. I'm recording it at the forex market rate. Then you are recording it at a revalued rate of Bank of Ghana.
So did those variables also apply during our loss, or that was not?
No, you were not having those gold purchase program been sitting on the books of BOG. You were having it sitting on the books of PMMC, and the BOG was only recording the reserve build-up for that program, not the expenditure.
So from the explanation you're giving me, then Gold Board cannot necessarily say that they've made a profit, because there are some loss that they've incurred from this 9 billion that we spoke about. Unless maybe I'm confused.
Okay, last one. I'm saying that what occasioned this 9 billion is not an operational loss. Is a revaluation loss. Revaluation losses are not cash losses. So I'm selling my thing to you. I went to the field as Bank of Ghana. What's the name? Gold Board. I bought it at 12 cedis. Is that not it? I have paid. But you, Bank of Ghana, in recording or transposing that dollars to Ghana, you cannot go with that rate.
So it's not as if that the money was there taken
and lost somewhere. But the difference is that in the recording of the financial statements of Bank of Ghana, you need to record it by your own statutory rate. But that statutory rate is not reflective in the field. So actually, $100 million that you have given me to buy the gold, it doesn't change. But the way it is recorded in your books and my books will be different, because I'm using what I pay.
Yeah, I understand.
You are using
transactions.
So the difference between, let's say, the 12.3 into the field and then the 10.3 by the Bank of Ghana, that difference is not a cash loss; it's a revaluation loss. That's why it is normally added to other comprehensive income. It's not a fiscal cost.
Why is Gold Board underbuying it compared to what is being sold at the international market?
No. Of course, we do discounts, but that is not even the issue. What the issue I'm saying is that if you go to the Gold Board, their revenue is they will use the spot rate that they sold the gold, and then in their expenditure they will use the spot rate they bought the gold. So let's say they are selling at the international market at 13 Ghana cedis per let's say $1 to 13 Ghana cedis, example. But they bought it at, let's say, 11.85. So they've made a profit. Is that not it? But BOG, they cannot use the 11.5 because the mandatory rate that is in the books of BOG on that for the average, the average spot rate will be, let's say, 10.3. So that 10.3 and the 11, the difference is classified as a loss and added to other comprehensive income. That's why in financial statement, any way you pick a company, they will say profit and loss for the year. That measures revenue and direct operational expense of the company. Then after the profit, they will now have what we call other comprehensive income that takes care of non-cash losses, which is transpositional expenditures, exchange effects, and all those things. Those are not monetary losses. They are just accounting effect. And when they now come to total, then you will never see any financial statement in the world that will add profit or loss to other comprehensive income. Because other comprehensive income loss is not a cash loss as compared to the loss declared in the books. And of course,
better explain. But of course, like I indicated, I'm not a finance person, so my efficiency will not be there as much as it will I mean, that said, let me make my final point and end. I'm just being a bit inquisitive. Why BOG for the first time chose to speak to the public through the majority in parliament, but not themselves? You see, it boils down to what I earlier said, that principles are not seasonal. They know when they come, they bring the information to the public. We will hold them to the things they set during our time. So I'm a bit worried. But of course, I mean, you've already become a spokesperson of BOG by even coming out with a circular yesterday. I'm surprised. Why
is it on behalf of the BOG or the majorities?
Where do they get the information?
No, you see,
where do they get the information?
Look, when an account is published.
No, yesterday it wasn't published.
No, wait. When an account is published, it does not mean published on a website. You should know this by.
So they sent to you privately.
No, wait. The account was published 2 days ago, and I got a copy from the Ministry of Finance. I've been tracking it. I got a copy from the Ministry of Finance, and then a copy was also sent to Parliament yesterday. But this morning, I'm told that it is on the website of the Bank of Ghana now. I'm told. But even with that, if you are a serious finance person or a serious member of the finance committee, you should be able to get these documents. You don't need them to publish a soft copy before you know an account has been published. How many companies have you seen soft copies of their financial statement?
No, BOG is not necessarily a company.
What I mean, so if it's not a company, then we shouldn't demand profit from them, Abi.
No, nobody judge BOG on the profit.
I'm just saying that those who made that complaint that I've become a spokesperson to the BOG.
That's what people are now saying.
No, wait. It is because they didn't follow through the publishing mechanism of state institutions. State institutions accounts are declared published once it is copies are submitted to the supervisory ministry. So, for example, BOST, when their audited financial statement is ready, it is approved by the board. Then immediately it is sent to the Ministry of Energy. It is declared published. Your agencies under the Ministry of Education, don't they bring you copies?
So this is finance ministry.
Yes, it was from the finance minister. I requested for it.
Okay.
And I'm saying that
I raised my
this morning,
you are on record to say that finance minister gave to you.
I didn't say finance minister.
I said the minister. Man by the minister.
He requested.
So I wasn't speaking on behalf of
BOG.
I was speaking on behalf of the majority. And the reason why we did this is because we knew the character of our brothers. In fact, before even they published the load shedding management process of the energy sector, Honorable Collins, what's his name? Collins Adumako, right? Had already organized a press conference. Nijek. So we didn't want them to come and misrepresent and mislead the people of Ghana. Now, I have brought this thing out to the full glare of the public.
The loss.
Anybody who is minded to read what we published yesterday will know that what we read yesterday is an accounting loss and not an economic loss. Because if you look at this one, the total operation income of Bank of Ghana for the year 2025 is 22.36 billion Ghana cedis. However, we have to spend the 16 billion to control inflation. We have to do suffer revaluation losses as a result of the domestic gold purchase program that stabilizes our currency and others. So it is mischievous to say I was speaking for Bank of Ghana. And finally, this is the news item Joy published on why we wanted Dr. Addison to resign. It was not because of losses necessarily.
No, but the demonstration, that's
no, it is a demonstration. We went to him to present our petition. They didn't take the petition, if you remember. They called security people to stop us at the entrance. We returned. All of a sudden, the next 2 days, he did a press conference dismissing the cause for his resignation. It was the printing of money. Okay, it's okay, but you can read it.
Right.
This is it.
Honorable. I've heard from some other quarters, right? I don't know. There was a Hamza Sweeney also. He's not a member of parliament. They say.
So
he was found amongst you. People are beginning to raise questions as to why he found himself.
Oh, initially I even thought it was his senior brother. I was a bit
no. So you see, normally because I publish on my status that will be reading a press conference on this. You cannot. Parliament is on recess. If you know, we are on recess. So anybody who is willing to come and join us, you saw MPs behind me too. So,
Obviously, majority MPs, that makes sense.
yes, of course. But I'm saying that this advert was published that there will be a press conference at 2 p.m. at Parliament. So people who are friends to me and friends to Honorable Adongo and the rest, Adongo and all, everyone published it. So naturally they will want to come and join. The reason why Honorable Adongo is not the one who read the press conference is because he's a member of the board of Bank of Ghana. So it will not.
No, now it makes sense where the information got leaked. Okay, it makes sense.
Don't be
It makes sense. It makes sense.
That would be mysterious.
It makes sense. Honorable.
I'll buy you.
No, please.
Yes, David. Indeed.
Honorable has raised a lot of issues.
Yes,
and I want to see
Honorable has really brought out a lot of insights onto this matter. I was thinking that my brother Kwesi would also tell Ghanaians why or what they did better. But unfortunately, he dare not. He cannot.
If you are still in power, you should
He
tell us why you are
cannot.
better.
He cannot. And you realize that he threw in the towel with the fact that he is not an economist or he is not a finance person. That is a very skillful way of dodging the bullet.
No, it's an honest approach. I'm not a finance person.
No, but again, the facts are clear. You don't need to be a finance person to know the difference between profits and losses and grave losses. You don't need to be a finance person. 1 plus 1 definitely you know is 2. 1 minus 1 you know is 0. David, Honorable has, given us a lot of insights, and indeed, we in the United Party think that looking at our macroeconomic trends is looking well for our country. And if you look at all central banks of the world, you have about 1/3 of central banks of the world making losses currently. And it's attributed due to what? Trying to stabilize the economy. That is the cost we will incur in trying to stabilize the economy and have such significant macroeconomic indicators. Indeed, the panacea to some of these losses is to tackle the macroeconomy and making sure that the non-performing loans are lower. If you look at the NPL, as at 2024, it was about 22.7%. In 2025, right, 2026, it's projected to reduce from 22.7% 2024 to about 15%, of which the Bank of Ghana's target is 10% in the long term. So clearly, we are heading towards a good direction. At a particular point in time in this country, David, our inflation rose to what? 54%. And in the history of the central bank, since the creation of the central bank to date, the central bank has never ever recorded a loss of about 60 billion Ghana cedis. But it happened under the leadership and the competence of His Excellency, the former Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, the head of the economic management team, and then the leadership of the central bank at that time, Dr. Addison. David, and it was as a result of clear and rash mismanagement. Let me explain to you. The central bank had to mop, or I would say had to take the shock of the domestic exchange program, and it took the shock about 50% of that program. The losses incurred due to that program, the central bank took about 50% of it. Now, due to the mismanagement of the Ghanaian economy, we were rated junk by all these global rating agencies, Moody's, Fitch, you can't remember, and that we were kicked out of the Eurobond market. And government ought to go deep into our domestic markets to look for capital, competing against the private sector. Can you imagine an elephant competing against a sheep for grass? who would win? Straining businesses' ability to access capital. David, at that time, a lot of Ghanaians were suffering. Inflation 54%. And the reason why inflation rose to that point was that they had increased the money supply into the market, into the economy. And that in order for us, even for them to mop out that excess liquidity, they had to increase the monetary policy rate and overburden Ghanaians. At that time, David, what was the exchange rate? Almost 17 cedis to a dollar. And you could tell that today, if the Bank of Ghana is making a loss of 15.2, right, and your inflation is at 3.2%, right, then it's significant. It's good. Because I do not see it as, I would say it's a policy cost, not a loss. It's a policy cost that we Ghanaians have to bear this cost for this good macroeconomic indicator. Today, you realize that in the market today, prices have been stabilized. Even though we are having the Israel-US-Iran war that has affected the prices of crude oil globally, due to the stability of the cedi, we are not feeling that shock. And this is as a result of how significant the gold board has brought in some reserves into the coffers of the Bank of Ghana, about $12 billion. Without the gold board, and we have to be honest here, and I would always want to be a responsible opposition. Say it as it, and tell the people the truth. And where we have to criticize, we will do so. Without the intervention of the gold board, I'm sure today we'll be buying for at almost 20 cedis per litre or 30 cedis per litre. Looking at the current growth, that we had, or the trajectory we had during the MPP. If you look at the losses you're talking about from the BOG, and as my brother did intimate, one of the contributing factors was the gold for oil policy. Ask my brother Kwesi here. As for the domestic gold purchasing program, we know who the aggregators are. The gold for oil. Did you know who were the middle people and the brokers? Was that made public? Can I challenge any journalist or anybody? But I'm sure Kwesi will know because it's his party.
I don't know.
Oh, Kwesi, you don't know?
No.
You don't know?
It was an indication, right?
Yes, I did. It's his party, you know.
I don't know any idea.
Oh, you, well. We know who the aggregators are. We know the operational framework in which they are operating under. And part of the losses attributed to the BOG is as a result of the differences in exchange rate and also the spot price and discounts that are given to these ASMs, because the government does not want them to smuggle these gold out of the country. These are part of the operational costs that are accrued as a result of this policy. And David, in tackling these issues, part of the things that we find worrying is that, yes, the open market operations of the central bank has increased by 95%. And that's about that's 16.7 billion. Then now you move to the liabilities of commercial banks. It has rose by 186%. That's about 93.6 billion. And then you look at the money in circulation has doubled by 93.8 billion. So these are trends that I think that the central bank ought to look at carefully in making sure that the central bank does not go down that trajectory and receive a lot of shocks that tomorrow we might have to bail it out. Under the MPP, it nearly happened. Indeed, it even happened. I would say that's why the central bank had to print money. Because under their regime, part of the reasons why there were losses accrued hugely by the central bank was because of the haircut, the domestic exchange program, of which, David, at that time, 70% of Ghana's tax revenue was used to pay interest on loans. Money they borrowed without anything to show for. What has been the significant development by the MPP as compared to the monies that they borrowed? Today, Ken Oforiatta cannot come to Ghana and answer for the ills and his mismanagement. David. And so we have to look at it closely and see how best the central bank ought to cushion and reorient its policies. Now, the Gold Board was set to tackle the issue of Forex. We in the United Party think that yes, it has played a crucial role, but it needs to, the central bank ought to diversify its portfolio when tackling the Forex. Because, touch wood, if tomorrow the prices of gold hits on a decline in the global market, it is going to have a significant effect on our macroeconomy and indeed on this policy. That is part of the risk factor. We believe that today, we know that the central bank controls the forex bureaus in this country. What I want to see as a policy intervention is that, yes, government wants to mop out the dollars and control dollars, right? Have a cooperation with the forex bureaus, right? Give them cedis to be able to mop out the dollars in circulation, and make sure that all the forex bureaus in Ghana have a fixed rate, strictly enforced. Because you go to a forex bureau in Jolu and it's 12, let's say it's 11.8. You go to a forex bureau in East Legon and it's 12 cedis. There's a whole lot of discrepancies in exchange rates, but it's the same dollar. And so the central bank ought to enforce these laws and not this policy that we are recommending, and that they would supply forex bureaus with some form of capital in cedis to mop out the excess dollars, so that in return they give them a commission, and that the forex bureaus do not aim by the differences of buying and selling dollars for the central bank. I think that that is also another parallel way of also tackling this exchange rate stabilization. Then significantly, the orientation of our economy. Today, my brother talked about supply to the private sector. We believe in an enterprise economy. We believe that the private sector should be the engine of growth. We believe that there are robust industrial sons and daughters of this land that, if supported with capital, can drive our collective agenda of what? Import substitution. And so, going forward, I want to see that drive led by the central bank to bring down the lending rates, right, and the interest rates on loans to a single-digit interest rate, so that tomorrow anybody in the north who wants to indulge in commercial farming will be profitable and will have access to affordable capital to scale up. Anybody in the south who wants to indulge in large-scale fishing would be able to afford for all the machines and the cold stores. And anybody in the middle belt who wants to indulge in timber, adding value to our timber and all that, would have access to capital, easy and cheap capital to do that. And indeed, that would form the bedrock of Ghana's economic transformation and stability, that we orient our economy from an import-dependent one to an export-dependent one, right? And that would indeed transform the country and create jobs. The Gold Board, on the other hand, is seeking to, what do you call it, establish a refinery. I know they're in the process. They have also teamed up with other local, what do you call it, enterprises in that regard. David, it would save a lot of money for us. Over the years, Ghana's gold reserves have been what do you call it, influenced by refineries out of the country that would meet the LBMA standard. Today, thankfully, there are processes in place to establish a gold refinery. Today, we have a Ghanaian company that is leading the charge for mining, which is EMP. And that EMP is going to sell its gold in cities. And that 100% of EMP's gold output will be given to the gold board. And then would support Ghana's, the central bank's gold reserves accumulation program. So, David, clearly we're on the right path, but indeed, all these economic gains and significant macroeconomic outputs would be meaningless if we are not able to create jobs. Today, we have an energy situation and crisis on our necks. It is prudent that this government moves swiftly, because your cardinal policy of the 24-hour economy, right, relies on our ability to generate excess electricity. Because if today we are having an energy crisis today, as we are having today, David, then the 24-hour economy is meaningless. And it will be difficult for them to execute. That is why I said that we should go back to the days of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. When Dr. Kwame Nkrumah established the Akosombo Dam, he also established the Atomic Energy Commission, of which we had a reactor, a nuclear reactor. What has been the trajectory of this country for enhancing sustainable energy sources? Why have we allowed ourselves today, and I blame some of our political actors, due to greed? 70% of our energy mix is coupled by what? Thermal, which relies heavily on HFOs and heavy diesel, because some politicians are the ones supplying these diesels to these independent power producers. As a result of greed, the whole nation suffers. Right. That's why I said that President Mahamad's end of tenure in 2016, when he brought in Ameri and car power, was a short-term intervention. Because you cannot power a nation on diesel for so long. 70% of your energy mix is non-renewable. It is not sustainable, especially the costs associated with it. That is why I was expecting that the presidency of the SWA administration, and now the Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, would have completed the Palugu multi-purpose irrigational dam and dam to power, at least increase our energy capacity. But what did they do? They failed to execute that.
I'm surprised. It looks like
they failed to execute that.
Like everything is about the past government. Even if this government will be in power for 8 years, everything will still be about the past government.
What?
I think you should.
You
should graduate from the bitterness.
Nobody is bitter.
In politics.
Nobody is bitter. Well, who is bitter? I am a Ghanaian.
I know.
I am a Ghanaian. So I am bitter about
government.
Hold them responsible. I am holding them responsible. I have.
Hold them responsible.
I have not been biased.
Graduate from this bitterness anytime, everything Akufo-Addo past.
With bitterness. Is it truth? Is it true that is bitterness, Kwesi? Is it true that is bitterness?
You know what they are doing to him. You know what they are doing to him.
Is it true that is bitterness?
That's not your business.
His leader.
That's not your business.
I'm surprised he's speaking like this. Are you telling me that you are more sensible than your leader, Kennedy Japan? Who said that? The previous government. I am coming. The previous government. Please. Please. Are you saying that Kennedy Japan criticized the previous administration? And he said, and I quote, that the MPP is looting Ghana like no ever before. Was he wrong?
When did he say that?
Was he wrong,
Kwesi? When did he say that?
He said that during the heat of the climax of the campaign. You say you don't know. That Kennedy Japan said that they are looting Ghana like never before.
It's not true.
It is true. Okay. Check it out.
I should do your research.
Check it out. I have done my own research and I know what I'm talking about.
All right.
So when you say bitterness, the truth is one. No, it is not predicated on bitterness. It is truth.
See, he was not being personal.
And it's not only
you brought in
all the movements for change people.
Which movement? We are United Party.
Let me ask him.
Are you with the MPP or you are with the base?
I'm sitting here on the table.
there's two of you.
Are you with
I
the
the last time on TV
On
today.
TV.
I want you people see. Let's end well.
No, but you know, David, I have to be fair. When he says bitterness, I'm surprised he says. Okay, no, we are talking the truth here.
David,
we are talking the truth here.
David, just to provide the update that see the public account, the Bank of Ghana financial statement, 136 pages has been published online now. Okay. This is even Ghana Web. They have published the full copy of it.
They gave it to their spokesperson yesterday and published it today.
It was published last night at 11:50 something.
After the spokesperson had already gone.
But I told you that the law mandates publishing, not by the website. The law didn't say that.
Not being legalistic.
No.
That's what defining what publishing is.
So haven't they published?
Anyway,
I'm challenging everybody watching to go through the entire 130 pages and see whether you will get any contradiction
with the legal definition of publishing. Even if you give it to two people, you've published.
Exactly. So what's your problem?
So I know he's being legalistic, but within the context of how he had it, we are saying that he performed the role for them.
Placed a request.
I placed a request and I got it. Do you know sometimes the annual reports? We normally get it before my committee, including that of Dr. Amina, the former finance minister. So that we request it before we even get to Parliament, so that we can prepare to deal with the matter. So it's not bad.
I wanted us to end on this note. Somebody wants me to ask you this question. It's the Noom Mubarak from Tamale. He says he wants Honorable Taisa to know that our exchange rate and inflation are low, but there's no money in our pockets to buy anything.
Because the sterilization,
they have to do something about it.
And you see, that is also another misconception.
I have this about 4 minutes.
I'll do it in 30 seconds. You see, when you say there's no money in your pocket, money is an end product. You must earn something.
Yeah.
How was money in your pocket previously? A 30 Ghana cedi today worth of purchasing power is higher than 30 Ghana cedis in 2024.
Are you sure, Honorable? Price of goods has not gone down. They don't care.
But you know, a bag of cement has come down.
Yeah, that one I agree.
And so I'm saying that when you are saying things are improving, they are not saying that we are not in a period of deflation.
Yeah, but transport.
We've explained it. No, but you see, in the basket has 307 products. It's a weighted average. Some will be increasing at a higher rate, some will be falling naturally. But the weighted average results into the inflation. It doesn't mean that every product will be increasing at 3.2 or falling.
But the inflation is at the macro level. At the micro level is where these people are
complaining. And I'm also part of the micro. And
you don't feel it.
An MP who is representing over 100,000 people. I go to micro, I see what is going on. I'm telling you that there has been much improvement in the welfare of people. I'm telling you that.
And the guys are complaining.
And look, if you ask the average Ghanaian, they will, in terms of economy, they will rate President Mahama better than Akufo-Addo in the last. If you ask Ghanaians today, what Ghanaians are not currently comfortable is the energy and the Galamsey issue. But if you ask Ghanaians on the performance of the economy, is the country heading the right direction? Most Ghanaians will side with President Mahama. Right. He has been able to do well with that.
Okay, I think we'll leave it at that. Any responses?
About
a minute.
Yeah, at the macro level, it appears they are doing well. But you see, growth, especially when they talk about inflation, growth does not necessarily have to be sectorial. It has to be the trickle down effect, so that at the micro level too, you also feel it. If growth is not benchmarked or referenced in sectors like job creation, agriculture, affecting prices of food and goods, transportation, you may just be discussing the macroeconomic figures, the macroeconomic variables, but at the end of the day, the ordinary Ghanaian
is not reflecting.
Agric is growing at 8.0% positive than where you left off.
Obviously, we didn't. Obviously, yes.
With all the investment under the aegis of the platform for food and jobs.
Going back. We are not counting years from now to 1999.
But it's relative.
We are moving forward.
It's relative to also reference.
We are moving forward. So you don't expect that when you come as governance, you rather be doing bad. People are complaining that they cannot buy. They are not getting.
So your time, people were buying.
People were buying.
No.
So let me.
You know what they did? They brought plantain. They brought plantain to the ministries, and people were buying. The planting for food and jobs.
All right,
The success of it was to bring planting to the agric ministry itself.
We are done for today. This one is from France. Okay. This one says, "Hi, Pan-African TV. In many countries, the forex bureaus do not offer the same exchange rate on the instance the USA to the local currency. When you change at the airport, you have the lowest rate, which is downtown rates." All right, so I don't get exactly what you want to say. This one says, "When Bank of Ghana make losses under the NPP, is called loss. But when it makes losses under the NDC, it is called cost losses. What is a Afrantoman talking about?" Okay, this is from Master Planner, Policy Analyst Kintamanto. Thank you so much, Master Planner, for the message. This one says, okay, all right. "Good morning, David, and to your panelists. The 15.6 billion loss by the Bank of Ghana must be understood in context. These were not reckless decisions. They were emergency interventions during a period of severe economic stress." All right, thank you so much, Doc, and happy holiday to you. And then Kwesi Gwatin, thank you so much for passing through, and happy holiday to you. My name is David Ato. Honorable, thank you so much for making time to join us. We'll see you same time We'll see you same time next week. Honorable is walking into my camera. You can come in. It's a holiday, so let's go for it. We'll see you same time next week. Have a very, very productive day. Bye.